Hello, everyone. My name is Joel David Amos. You can call me Joel. I had a aortic dissection emergency in New Orleans in 2015, March, day before St. Patrick's Day, my first trip to New Orleans. I was very excited to party on Bourbon Street, but fate had other ideas. I was there for work. I was working as a movie journalist, doing interviews, movie reviews, and I was on a set visit for a movie with Regina Hall, and uh, checked into my hotel. About a half hour after that, basically fell to the ground, lost all feeling in my legs. Believe it or not, first inclination was, why don't I take a nap and see how this goes? But thank goodness I crawled over to the phone and dialed zero in the hotel, got me an ambulance, and luckily I had some EMTs who did an EKG and said, you didn't have a heart attack, but there's something wrong with your heart. And I firmly believe that it is those EMTs that started the process of saving my life, where I didn't arrive at Tulane Hospital with them thinking it was a heart attack. They did a CT scan and determined that it was an aortic dissection and I needed to have emergency surgery ASAP. They got me up to the OR. Um, at the time in 2015, there were a handful of people that were considered, the best at handling aortic dissections. And fate is an amazing thing because one of those doctor surgeons was on duty at Tulane Hospital in New Orleans on the night that I came in. So I felt very fortunate. But he did hand me my phone and tell me to call my wife and say goodbye because of the chance of survival. But I remember, and I don't know if it was denial or just positive thinking, but I really felt like, that this was going to be okay. This is going to be okay. And I remember one of the last things I thought was, I will wake up. And sure enough, I did. Hello, I'm still here. And knock wood. And anyway, and it was a tough recovery. I was in the ICU for a few days, in the hospital a few days after that. They had to saw through my ribs, so that was a lovely, lovely, tingly, just joyous feeling. Um, but I fought through it. I knew I had a lot to live for. At the time, my daughter was barely even two, not even two, and I just knew that it was time to really, get serious. Before then, I had been all about work and a very good father, but you know, um, in the movie coverage business, there's a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out, and so you commit to everything because you don't know if they'll stop asking. So I was working at home, which is great because she could see me, but I was working all the time, or going off to a press junket or a movie or whatever. I was drinking tons of coffee. I mean, I would go through two uh, things of coffee a day, easy, from 7 a.m. to midnight. Um, and these were all things that I think, contributed possibly. They have since done tests and determined that it's not genetic, thank goodness. So it's not going to affect my daughter. But uh, recovery was tough, but it was hard because I didn't have a doctor or a cardiac surgeon in Los Angeles when I flew back home who really believed in cardiac rehab. So I never really had that. But despite that, I came back. Uh, I had a finally landed with a doctor who wanted to do a CT scan, which is what my emergency surgeon suggested I do right away. But it took about a year to finally get one, and they found a 6 centimeter aneurysm on my aorta up here, so they had to operate on that. So I had a second open heart operation in July of 2016. Um, my initial reaction was shock, and I needed to sit down. And I was just, I mean, I thought I was getting ready to go back to work. But so again, I had a really good doctor who suggested that I go to UCLA, and they have the Aortic Center there in Los Angeles, which is one of the best in the country. And I met a doctor by the name of Dr. Barrel, who I believe is one of the best surgeons that one could ask for. And he did my surgery And I had a small complication, so I should have been there for only about 5 days, but I had a DVT, blood clot, and they couldn't get my INR exactly right with my blood, and so I ended up being in the hospital for almost 2 weeks. And that time I did get cardiac rehab, and it was the best. It was absolutely the best. Any of you out there, excuse me, um, it's something to fight for with your doctor or insurance or whatever, because it's a physical therapy, but they monitor your heart. It's with physical therapists that are highly educated on your heart, and mine even had a psychiatrist that you saw once a week, which was important because after two of these events, I definitely had some PTSD. And even to this day, the sound of an ambulance going by just gives me the chills. And it takes me back to being in that ambulance racing through the streets of New Orleans. Um, and, a lot of times, especially with these two surgeries and surviving them both, I search for meaning, I'm sure a lot of us do, fellow warriors do. And I determined that if nothing else, I'm my daughter is an only child, and she needs her dad, and she's got a great mom, and I like to think that I'm a great dad, and I believe that that was one of the reasons why perhaps I was saved. I don't know, who knows, but I have made every moment count that I can with her, particularly through the pandemic when, being an only child, she was here, and I delightfully played with her and was a dragon and a king, and I think I might have even played a princess once or twice playing with her. Um, so anyway, it was a long recovery from both those surgeries, and then I had a couple of stents put in, um, a couple of months apart after that second open heart surgery, and then I had the wildest surgery, which was in October of 2017. And I had these awful headaches, and I thought that maybe it was a migraine or something. And it turns out they did a scan. They found out that the blood in my head was going the wrong way. So the doctor needed to go in there and kind of like your computer, almost like stop it and then start it again and remind it, like, hey, you're supposed to go this way. Um, and that ended up being a problem because the incision, something happened with the incision, and I was bleeding all over. But they got a hold of that, and believe it or not, a month and a half later, I moved from Los Angeles to Spokane, Washington, where I am now. It was a lot of issues. My job is my health, and I do a lot of writing still. Working on a book about my health experience, to hopefully help other survivors or even people who are about to go through that. Um, I think that you know, advice for any survivors that I might have is patience, while also having extreme determination. You are your greatest advocate, um, and if your doctor or health provider isn't giving you what you need, you have every right to demand it in a nice way, of course. Sugar goes a long way. But I would suggest that, you listen to your body, you do what's needed. After two open heart surgeries and three stent surgeries, I really felt comfortable uh, knowing what my body felt. And I've had several trips to the ER, and they always say the same thing. I always feel silly if it ends up being nothing, but they always say the same thing. With your history, better be on the safe side. If you have any kind of chest pains, if you have this, if you have that, uh, any doubt at all, come to the ER. Um, and that's kind of something that has kept with me, is that somebody with my health history, when you show up at the ER, they look at that and they say, okay, we got to look at this guy or this woman and do something to help them. So I would say that, again, you are your own best advocate, um, and look to Aortic Hope, look to these support groups that are out there that uh, have been priceless to me since 2015, and I've been proudly part of this group since then. my mother, God bless her, has found it, and I'm so happy that I found this group. A lot of us became very close with Greg Greenberg, and I will have to admit that when he passed away Christmas time last year, year before last, it hit me hard. It hit me really hard, and I wouldn't say it was PTSD coming back as much as I would say that he was a warrior. He was as tough as they come, and I kind of went into a deep depression, if I'm being honest, and I didn't feel like doing anything. I didn't feel like working on my book. I didn't feel like working on movie reviews, which I still kind of do here and there. Um, I didn't really feel like doing anything, and um, I've talked to therapists, and it's helped a lot. And I recently had my yearly CT scan at the end of May, and my vascular surgeon here in Spokane said that they discovered an aneurysm back up here again, and it's over 6, and it needs to be operated on. And the stent that was put here is now just free floating. So he wanted the advice of the surgeon who had done my operations in Los Angeles. So we sent the CT scans to him, and he basically summoned me to LA and wanted to see me right away. So it took a little while with vacations and this and that, but I ended up down there at the beginning of August. And it turns out that I'm about to have the most serious operation that I have had yet. The surgeon that I met with, not just my own surgeon, but another surgeon who's going to scrub in, said it's the most serious operation they do at Cedars-Sinai, which is the hospital that Dr. Barrel is at now. It is a sternotomy and an open extent thoraabdominal or aortic aneurysm repair. And while they're in there, they're also looking at areas of the aorta where they're going to replace it. And we're going to take care of the false lumen once and for all, because now it's leaking. They expect I fly actually on Saturday down to Los Angeles from Spokane, check into the hospital at the lovely hour of 5:30 in the morning on Monday, the 18th. And then at 7:15, 7:30, Dr. Barrel and his esteemed colleagues will operate on me. I've been told it'll take about 5 hours, which is incredible because everything they're doing, my first surgery in New Orleans was about 7 hours. And it is just amazing how far they've come in the last several years. And I just feel I'm in really good hands. I'm still pretty nervous. But I feel that I'm in really, really good hands. I'm looking at 3 to 4 days in the ICU, and then 5 to 7 days in the hospital. And then, lucky me, my best friend in the world, who I've known since I was 18, lives in Los Angeles, and I will stay with him until I get the green light to fly home. And then we start a new uh, set of cardiac rehab appointments. And I think the thing about these things for us survivors and warriors is subsequent surgeries. You can be nervous about the surgery. You can be nervous about the days after the surgery. But in terms of the healing and the getting better, we've done this. We're warriors. We can put, we can do what we got to do to get better. And this has made me appreciate life even more. Um, again, I am determined to wake up after this surgery. I am determined to come home and play with my daughter after this surgery. And I am looking forward to everything that life has to offer after this surgery. But if I could leave aortic warriors out there with anything, it's that um, we are a special group, and to rely on each other. And as soon as I told some of the people at Aortic Hope about this upcoming operation, they just have been priceless, like gifts from heaven. And lean on this group, lean on your friends, your family. Sometimes people have trouble with it. Sometimes people won't want to talk about it. It's tough. Yeah, some of your friends may have issues because it forces them to face their own mortality, and that's okay. There are other friends and other family and professionals that you can talk to help you get through it. And I believe that we everything happens for a reason, and that we are inspiring others by doing things like this and being parts of groups like this. And the best thing you can do when you're newly diagnosed is learn about it, but don't go down the internet rabbit hole, because there is a lot of misinformation out there. Use trusted sources like Cleveland Clinic, the Mayo Clinic, UCLA Aortic Center, Cedar Sinai, these hospitals that are really well known. And that's where you should probably mostly get your information. And of course, from your medical professional. And again, if you don't feel like you're getting what you need, make sure that you channel the warrior inside you and you get what you need, because you know what you need. Your body knows what you need, and nobody's going to give it to you unless you ask. So I would just say that asking for what you need is the most important thing. And even though I've gone through 2 open heart surgery, I'm looking at the most serious surgery that Cedar Sinai does, and obviously the most serious surgery I've ever gone through. Um, but that being said, I'm approaching it that, I got this. I have the support of a large group of people, my family, my friends, and I'm in very good hands. And so um, the next time we do a Where Are They Now for Joel, that being me, I will have tales to tell of my adventures in Los Angeles, recovering from a surgery that will cut me from my underarm all the way down past my belly button. So that's going to be fun. But thanks to Aortic Hope, has talked to somebody who's actually had a similar surgery, and again, that helped immensely. So again, there's that group. We come back to the people who've experienced it, and if you're new to this, feel free to reach out to people in Aortic Hope, because they know what they're talking about. They've been through it, and every single time I've ever talked to anybody in this group, I have felt so much better after. And I'd say, to me, that's the biggest advice I could give to you, is surround yourself with people who understand what you're going through and who can help you, not just physically, but especially mentally. And that's pretty much my story. And I look forward to seeing you all on the other side. So thank you very much.